Penny, there's everybody. All right.
Everybody wins.
Okay, and here is visual aid.
All right. We're going to share.
Okay. Imagine yourself in a confined room with a suspected killer. Your job is to sit down with this suspected killer and see if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, or if they committed a heinous crime. So this is a pretty dramatic story. What's the point of it? So, deception. Detecting deception specifically. So in the business place, people can try to deceive you all the time. Whether it be a bad business deal, a bad product they're trying to sell to you, or just trying to be deceptive in the workplace. So how do you find that out? How do you detect that? Well, I'm here to tell you how to do that, and what qualifies me to tell you about this. So I was a detective for the Hobbs Police Department, and during my time as a detective, they sent me to 2 schools, both for an interview and interrogation. During those schools, I sat down with some pretty accomplished detectives that they've done this for 20 plus years, and taught me the general overview of how to detect deception on a more accurate level. So I'm just this is a very, very brief overview of it, and I'll try and get it all touched on for you guys. So first and foremost, eye-accessing cues. Eye-accessing cues are when you ask a person a question, aka, where'd you graduate from high school? You think about it, and so when, based on your type of person, you're either a visual, an audio, or a kinesthetic person. Visual people, they will look up, and they usually talk fast. They're more outgoing, confident. They're more handsy. They use their hands a lot. So I'll let you take a wild guess on which one I am. But so I'm a very visual person. Audio people, they will look directly to the left or right, and they're not fast talking, and they're not slow talking, but they focus on what they say a lot more. And then kinesthetic people are very slow talkers. They're the feelers, they're touchy-feely. They will tell you, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel whatever, but they're very slow, and they're usually down. So with all those, with the visual, audio, and kinesthetic, with those, it depends on what dominant hand you are, right or left-handed. So when you ask a person a question, if they look to their left the whole time, that means they're actually visually hearing or feeling what they're recalling. So if I ask you, hey, visualize an elephant for me, if you're a visual person, you'll look left, and okay, elephant looks like that. If you've never seen an elephant before, though, you'll construct it. And I was like, oh, I've never seen an elephant before, so I'm going to look right. Or I've never heard an elephant before, or I don't know how I feel about elephants. So you look down. So if you construct looking right, if you're right-handed, and it's the opposite if you're left, it's for brain hemispheres, but I won't get into that. So that's eye-accessing cues. Next is physiological responses to these questions. With physiological responses, you're looking for nervousness first and foremost, and not social nervousness like you'd see just meeting someone for the first time. You're looking for extreme next level nervousness, so tapping, jittery, being sweaty, all that kind of stuff. So not your typical, oh, I'm kind of nervous. It's the next level. Next, what you're looking for is self-soothing actions, like brushing the hair, which I don't have anymore. So I don't have to worry about that. Or self-petting, or just kind of soothing, or hugging, stuff like that. So what that indicates is when you're going into a certain line of questioning, or if someone's trying to sell you a product and they start showing these things over and over and over, you can see they're trying to deceive you by doing these actions rather than being confident about their product. So those are the physiological responses, and those are just a few, to name a few. There's a lot more, but once again, very general overview. Next is the verbal responses. So first and foremost, you're going to be looking for qualified answers. These are the answers you're going to see by politicians all the time, and these are my favorite when I'm working on the street. When someone says this, and I know they're 100% lying to me, just based on my experience. So, what qualified answers are is if they say, to the best of my knowledge, or if I recall correctly. And so what they're doing is they're setting up an out. So if you already know the truth of the answer and you say, hey, no, that's not completely true. I don't think that's true. And it's like, oh, well, I must have forgot. Or, oh, I didn't remember that right. They're giving themselves an out. And if you're telling the full truth, you don't need to give yourself an out because you believe what you're saying. So you don't need an out, if so to speak. So that's a qualified answer. The next is restating the question. So giving them time to think about the question. So where did I go to high school? Or was I with her? And thinking about it. If you're going to give the most honest, truthful answer, it's going to be right on. It's going to be readily available. You don't need to think about it all that much. So if they're confident in their product, they'll say, yeah, I graduated from a homeschool, or I, fill in the blank. It's not, they don't need time to think about it to give you the best answer. They'll give you their honest answer, and it should be right there. So that's giving them time to think about it. And it could show they're being deceptive and trying to phrase it best and maybe leaving stuff out. So with all these things together, the eye accessing cues, the physical responses, and the verbal responses, you have to take them all together, all as a package. So if you just see one or two of these things, you can just attribute that to social awkwardness or just, typical social nervousness. But if you see these things over and over and over, these kind of actions over and over and over, then you kind of get a full picture of they're not telling you the full truth, or they're not being the most forthcoming for you during these meetings or wherever this is happening. So hopefully this gives you a very brief general overview of how to detect deception. Hopefully you can take that to where you work, and it's a practice thing. You have to see it over and over, but once you do start seeing it, you'll see it again and again and again, and it'll become second nature. So hopefully this helped you guys out, and you can take this to your workplace. Thanks.
Yay.